Alright, we're back again with Tales. I think it must be episode 22. I tried a live stream earlier in answer to Lavette'S question on her video asking about what is the third tree. You've got the tree of life and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, or I call it the tree of contrasts, the realm that we're in. Consider also, for there to be life, it has its counterpart, which is death. It's just a continuous cycle between the two. You've got what you would call life from birth to death, and then you've got from death to birth. If you acknowledge and feel that you're alive, it's because you've already experienced the contrast and know what death feels like, even if you don't remember it. Now, Lavette'S question is a perfect example of you don't know what you don't know. And no, I didn't know the answer to this, but it just came. It just popped into the mind. What is the third tree? Before I come to that, I want to guide you through the fourth tree, which I would suggest is what is in mythology the world ash tree that was cut down. Now, in that story, Odin, or Wotan, depending on whether you're going with Germanic or Norse legends, he went through a redemption, shall we say. It's the root of the word is redeem, which is an exchange. So he exchanged an eye for the second sight to gain knowledge. So that tree would have been cut down, or it's a tree of death. It represents a doorway. It's not just from this side. There is a counterpart. There's more than one realm. I forgot to check again. I did mention this on the live stream, but I think it was a part that didn't come out. There's a guy called Darius who can do this out of body thing and has been doing it for a long time, and I'll put the link in the description to the particular video because it does help with having an understanding of the concept of what is real and what is real to real, shall we say. Now, the blueprint with everything is there is a micro and there is a macro. There is a outplay in this physical world stage. So this tree of death is expressed in this material realm, which is all run on a business model as an industry. Now, don't judge it as good or bad, because look with nature. When there is a fire, it creates ash, which provide nutrients, so the phoenix rises from the ashes, shall we say. You get new growth sprout up. Now, if you look at, I'm going to go off a slight tangent here with a story. Doesn't matter whether it's true or not, it's all stories. Once it's passed from the present, it becomes a story, and it doesn't matter whether there is any truth in it or not. The stories take on a life of their own. For example, how many boys were inspired by Buzz Lightyear, or was that Buzz Aldrin, and wanted to become an astronaut, and may have ended up working for NASA as a rocket engineer, all from being inspired by that story, basically. It doesn't matter whether it's true or not. It creates an effect if people are taking something from that story. It's a script that's being offered. Now, you have to be very discerning on this world stage as to what scripts you are going to take. Now, a script doesn't necessarily mean a piece of paper. It can be information. It can be a scenario, a conversation. It could be two people having a heated discussion, and you want to give your opinion. So you're now taking a script because you're getting involved in that drama. Just a few examples to illustrate the point here. Now, there is no picture with these Tales series of videos. For practical reasons, it cuts down on the amount of memory. The second attempt, which was a recording like this I did earlier, it's basically a grey, completely just blank grey screen, and it ended up as 3 gigabytes. And I thought it's going to take a good 24 hours to upload just 3 gigabytes, which is a bit. I said on a comment on under Lavette'S video that I would make a video, and because she said if anybody's got the answer what the third tree is. So to go off on a slight tangent, let's take England, World War II. Everybody was encouraged to grow their own food. Isn't it amazing how something that had control of a fifth of the world with a sort of head of an empire is then turning to the people and saying, you've got to do your bit, you've got to grow your own foods, you've got to sacrifice your iron railings to make more Spitfires, blah, blah, blah. Again, who in the end is paying for everything? Because wars follow the business model, they're there to make money. So, in that era, most houses their heating was by coal, which obviously creates ash, which creates nutrients for the soil. But here's an example of how this material world portrays linear time. It swings like a pendulum. If you'll notice, now we're in this current age. Excuse me. In this current age, it's all singing, all dancing, encouraging you to go all electric by coercion, or non-availability of certain things, or things put in place, or you can't have a coal fire in an urban area, and all sorts of legislation, all making things as difficult as possible, which actually is a challenge for you to use your imagination and your ability to create. Because this is something else you will find is a blueprint pattern, that the perceived evil side, this hidden hand control system, incidentally, the hidden hand doesn't like getting its own hands dirty. So, of course, it wouldn't want coal, it wants a flick of a switch, electric switch. It's easier to control with just one flick of a switch. I think you get my drift on that one. Just look around you externally. But I'm only pointing to the external as illustrative examples. So in dust tree, there's your fourth tree that is expressed. But now, eyewitness testimony here. Going into London by train from any direction, or any major city come to that, you will no doubt, not so much now, but over previous decades, you'd have this waste ground where there was industry. Things like going into London from the east side, the Bryant and May matches factories, all these massive brick warehouse type structures that is now taken on the umbrella term as being Tartarian structures. Things from the Victorian era anyway. We don't want to get stuck in the details of these things. But the point of it is the era of these industries, which is mostly Victorian, the majority of power is going to be coming from coal-fired, this, that and everything else. So it creates a lot of ash, and you can see evidence. There are certain types of trees and bushes that seem to thrive on railway embankments and brick archways and things. And it wouldn't take long for nature to take it back. That soil isn't exactly exhausted, it's just not had anything growing on it. And it would probably need a lot of these ghostly spectres, sort of museums of the past. They're in a decline now. I'm sure there's lots of YouTube channels with derelict buildings and this type of thing, and which are a fascination. I know I've gone off on a tangent here, but we will bring this back. But the point of it is nature takes things back. And internalize that. You need to take your sovereignty back. Adrienne Elise will often say on her channel, on her Gaia Supernova Soul updates each week, this one just come out, that if you've got a body, you are the highest authority. Now, to get a full grasp of things, I would thoroughly recommend that you listen to the Rudolf Steiner channel and look at the threefold man and the fourfold man. That explains our constituent parts, as it were. You've got one physical body, which contains an etheric body, an astral body, and an eye organization. You are a 3 in 1. You are also a 4. And would you not agree that it would make sense that there's not just 3 trees, but there are 4 trees, like there are 4 cardinal points? This realm works, this material realm works on a quad system of positive good, negative good, positive bad, and negative bad. But of course, the thing to be is the point in the middle of that quad. Now you'll have a cross or cardinal points. So you've got your 4 squares. Now if you're in that middle and you're on the center point of a cross, because the point of everything is you, just look what's immediately around you. You've got 4 corners. The cornerstone that the builders rejected is not a physical stone, but it is a right angle. But there are 4 of them, 4 right angles, because you're ideally going to be making a rectangular or a square housing for yourself. It's going to be a lot easier to do that way. It's about hitting rock bottom to find yourself. I'm going to go off on another little tangent here. And this one is as much as anything. Welcome to Van Trade University. I'm Dr. Juan Forfar. And you can look through the previous videos. It was James Brockhurst, the Energy Flow channel, but things have changed. We're in a new era. This is coming to you from the Algarve in a beautiful region. I have absolutely no income whatsoever. I have a melon, I have a few potatoes, I have some rice, and I have a few herbs and spices. There are quite a lot of things that are growing, like squashes, more potatoes, a whole load of seeds, cucumbers, tomatoes and things, but it takes time to develop this thing. So I'm asking or appealing for some financial help. It doesn't have to be a lot, 2 or 3 euros. Anything will help, because one, I can buy more seeds. I desperately wish to have onions. I can quite easily cope with eating a very limited amount of foods, because I can change the flavours of it. And ultimately, what I would like to develop here in this community, there's only 3 of us at the moment. We're sort of fully stretched as far as we can be. But it's a challenge, and it's a challenge to overcome. It only looks to be a challenge because it is something new, stepping into something new. And that is what this is going on at the moment. But so if you could find it in your heart, um, it's down to Keith and Gro, the other two in this community, that I've even got a Wi-Fi signal. They've been an enormous help, but I have absolutely no income whatsoever. And but there is a lot I can do, and there is a lot I can develop. So ultimately, people who come to visit here and stay here for a while, it'll be, well, here's your welcome pack, and you'll have a little, you'll have little pots with essential herbs and spices, and a few things to set you up. It's still in the early stages. This is still in the first year, and there's an open invitation if you look back through the videos on this channel. This is a chance, if you can come to this place, this is a chance for you to sample off-grid living. It's not the only place, but it's pretty relaxed. It works at the speed of nature. You're not here to kill yourself. You're not here to sort of push yourself to the absolute limits. You do as much as you feel you can do. Do whatever the body will allow, and no more. But the problem we've had with the growing here is July and August has been that real intense, scorching, burning sun, and it was totally unsuitable for planting seeds, because no amount of watering is sort of combating this basically sunburn to leaves on things that shouldn't be getting sunburned, things that would normally cope. Short of going to a huge effort of trying to shade everything with bamboo fencing, which the bamboo can be put to better use. I know I've gone on right off on a tangent, but so yes, so basically any help would be very much appreciated. So getting back now onto topic. So yes, Rudolf Steiner. Now he talks about at one time humanity had the ability to communicate with its body through the kidneys. Now Lavette has shown that the kidneys are associated with Venus, so that's a suppression of the divine feminine. The only way you can now contact directly with your human body is through breathing, slowing down the breathing, the breath of life. This is so important. If you feel yourself going into fear and anxiety, for example, then panic attacks, and I speak from personal experience on this one. Focus on the breathing, slow, deep, controlled breaths. Bring yourself back to the present moment. Which leads me on to give a plug to Lana A LaBonte channel, who, to my mind, she talks about things from personal experience. It's authentic, and I feel it will be a huge benefit for more of you to listen to what she says and what she shares. I'll give a shout out also to TrueLove channel, Yolanda. She's saying basically the same thing I'm going to be saying here about this third tree, about walking the middle pillar. Now you've got the tree of life on one end, you've got the tree of contrast, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, because you're in a realm of duality. You have to have contrast to be able to distinguish one thing from another, but we're encouraged to pick a side, encouraged to react, encouraged to go into negative default about everything. My perception of, or my worldview here, is bounded by four hills. I don't know what's going on out there in the greater external world. This is like a different world in itself. It's a loopy world, and it can seem very loopy, and that is exactly what we're at this point. It's a loop. You've reached a point where it's about to turn round. This is why the planets are all retrograde. They're all about to turn. There is something. There's a powerful force, powerful energy with these planets. Now I have speculated, and I have said that what you've got is a bounce back, something being beamed up from basically the pupil, of this giant eye that you find yourselves on. We are actually on the iris part. But of course, it's like a mirror. It reflects and it comes out. Left becomes right, right becomes left. This is why this realm seems like everything is upside down and backwards. Because the broadcast signal is a reflected signal. In terms of spirituality and the esoteric, we talk about everything being an external projection. Well, you've got a green screen which is natural. It is a biocomputer. As I've said before on previous videos, you can't see this with the physical eyes, but there is basically, if you can imagine like one of those riveted beams, those steel girders or iron girders, the sort of like framework you'd get for a airship, or the framework you'd get for something like a pier. It's up there. It's magnetic sky tracks for things up there. You're effectively you're on the iris of an eye, so it's not a flat Earth. It's not. It's a beveled. You're on the beveled part. Now, if you imagine, take the old television cable for the aerial, because things are broadcast through the air. Amazing, that, isn't it? All these words, how you don't hear them, and then suddenly it makes sense. Anyway, so imagine, let's take a cross section of this cable. It's one of those ones with the copper central core, and then you've got the insulation, then you've got the outer like mesh, and then you've got the insulation around that. So the mesh part is effectively the iris. So if we take this cross section through this wire, it's like bundles of these wires. This is expressed as removing the rod from your eye. They're basically open-ended wires, and there's a magnetic interaction between you and the external world, what you take in through the eyes and what you're projecting out. Because it's all internalized, and the true sight is feeling. So now let's come to this third tree. What is the third tree? It is the tree of being. It is the tree of balance. I would suggest that if you want a physically labelled species of tree, that it would be either teak or oak. Now, why do I say one of those two? Teak, if we take the letter T, it is a vertical line, and then at the top of that you've got a level. It's the highest level. Think of these letters as like glyphs. After the T comes E. E is for energy. So you've got God energy, or God in human form energy. It's A, so it's air. It's the air element. It's spirit. And now you've got the K. So you take that that vertical line. Now attached to that, to the right of it, you've got a sideways V. You can either ascend or you can descend. It's an expression of the contrasted duality. So RUOK, organic and in duality. So it could also be oak. So there's your organic, there's your spirit, and there you are as I, the individual, and you can go up or you can go down, or you can just be. It could possibly be that there is only one tree as such, and it has branches grafted on. A graft, a craft, an art. So each of those branches are putting out something different. So you've got basically like a living positive version of what would be interpreted as a multi-headed hydra. Because there's always an equal and an opposite with these things. This pattern with the perceived evil, it lacks the ability of imagination and creation. It can only replicate, mimic, distort, and alter. So it comes out garbled. So what you get from the system is actually things that are guiding humanity, but they're on a negative default, all intended to generate fear and negativity, which causes this imbalance in Earth, of course. But it doesn't take a lot to bring that balance back. I would also say there's probably a Bilbao tree. So B-I, now L is a representation of the lower calf and the foot. So B-I in a human form, B-A-O, which is B, just B, as a spirit in an organic body. It's an experience that you're going through. The irony is there is a lot of people that are dying to get out of this realm, but equally there are an awful lot who are dying to get into it, to go through this experience. You're actually one of the lucky ones. You've got a body. You have a way of experiencing and interacting in this game. That's all it is. Don't take life so seriously. You cannot be serious. Well, you don't need to be serious. You can be Orion. These are all metaphors. These are all archetypes. These are all basically different expressions of the same thing. I can hear the wild boars on the bank opposite. I hear rocks and boulders going. They always come out at night. They do this round, but can't really complain because they've obviously been displaced by man from somewhere else. So they have a right to live. Everything living has a right to live. What does not have a right to live is what we're here to get rid of. Now, my ego is just saying, go on, tell them. The lower I, the ego, it loves it. Get it on side. Keep it on a short leash. Don't let it run the show because it thinks it knows best. But it's learnt that that is not the case. And the ego has learnt to be brought under control and actually works alongside, and we're all pulling in the same direction. So now when does this age of Aquarius begin? That is entirely up to you. It's all an inside job, but what you're seeing with your physical eyes is actually a very solid, dense material, limiting reality with limiting dogmas, belief systems and things, which is catching an awful lot of people out. When in actual fact, the real universe that is massive is actually inside you. Now, how big is that universe depends on how far you can stretch your imagination as to what you think is possible and what you think is not possible. Because by thinking you are creating. This is why it is so important to watch your thoughts, keep yourself in the present moment. And above all else, don't be judgmental as this is good, this is bad. Just observe. Now, from my personal experience, I can talk about this. Against all odds, I've got this far. I feel I found my purpose. It's been shown to me quite clearly. And I can actually honestly say to you, and today has been a perfect example of it, you don't know what you don't know. Until sparked by another, like Lavette asking that question, what is the third tree? And it just came into the mind. The subconscious records everything. Now, you have a theme played out in this material realm of divide and conquer. But that is based on the complete opposite. Now, think about the Grim Reaper. He has a scythe. He's a harvester. It's not something evil. It's in the way Neville Goddard describes it. You are split from top to bottom down your spine. It's like looking for an oyster pearl. It's a light. Has that light grown inside you? Because you have a light. It's your internal sun. effectively what you've got, if you look at the night sky, the ratio of those little bright white lights you call stars to the amounts of darkness, that's about the ratio of how many people are sort of enlightened in this reality. But that sky is a reflection of what's going on inside. It's a reflection of this physical reality. It is also frequencies and things that are being bounced back with those planets and things, which causes changes in frequency. Now, depending on what frequency you're on, is going to affect how you feel, and you will feel things that feel externally. Now, this is a very strange time, this with 6 planets in retrograde. It's a time for internal reflection, it's a time for weighing things up, and here we come on to another part of this, weighing the heart against the feather. This is why I don't take things seriously, keep it light. Now, light has more than one meaning, keeping it light in the sense of weight in this case. If you're perceiving something as good or you're perceiving something as bad, you're generating an energy. Now, if you can pull yourself back to center and just observe and stay neutral, your heart will be balanced with the feather. What is coming, or what is going to be bounced back, which I've described as being like an X-ray scan, which will sweep through everything. It doesn't matter how solid it is, it will pass through everything. It's a pass over, like James True talks about. And it will scan everything. Now, if you are neutral, and you have that self-confidence and self-belief, and you know who you are, you can build up your aura so it is like your own individual firmament. Firmament, be strong of mind. Now, the mind has to come from the third brain. Now, you have 2 hemispheres which are divided when they are not in unison, your divine masculine and your divine feminine, your subconscious and your conscious. Now, the third brain is actually the heart. Interestingly, if you look at do a Google search, what is the water content of Earth, what is the water content in percentage of the brain and the heart, I believe they're all 73%, which obviously 7 and 3 is a 1 and a 0. See, there's 0 and 1, but it's been reflected back in the material world as a 1 and a 0 instead of a 0 and a 1. It's duality. It's as Yolanda on TrueLove channel talks about, the IXXI. Now, what if you bring those X's together? Let thine eye be singular. It's between 2 temples, which are on the side of your head. There's no accident that these things have these labels that they have. And if you can break the labels down further into individual characters, the letters, string them together, you've got a spell. It's a sequence. Now, this is over to more of you. I don't have any answers. I don't know anything. This is just as it comes. It's just as it flows. Don't shoot the messenger, you know. But I'm in a pretty good position. I know what I said earlier, but that's in the physical sense. We're in a realm of contrast. So there's a contrast to that. I'm in a very good position in the mental agility stakes, shall we say. I'm in a very good geographical position that is conducive to my health, that I find most agreeable, rather than the damp coldness and cold of Scotland. That did not agree with me. I was using a walking stick. Since I've been here, I've not even thought about a walking stick, and this is quite a rugged terrain. And many people have said I look younger, you look fitter, you sound calmer. Well, forget about the spelling. This is the spell. Now, this is what Alan Watts describes karma as. Karma is your doing. So I've taken the active steps, and against all odds and with generosity and help, I got here. And it's like, this is the time to draw the line in the sand. So where does the age of Aquarius start? It's when you decide it starts, when you take back your power, when you realize who you are. Now, I am the dedicatee of the Ninth Symphony in D minor. You may have to listen very carefully to what I've just said, but music keys go from A to G. There's 7, A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. So right in the middle is D, heart-centered, in balance, D. Before the sort of modern music, it's the Dorian mode. It was the center. It wasn't middle C. It was D, the Dorian mode. And that is where everything has to come from. If you can imagine that the pineal gland, so there's probably a pine tree as well. I wouldn't be surprised if there's actually 13 trees, not just 3 or 4. But for the purposes of answering the question, we'll say there's 4. Because they're not physical trees any more than if I was to ask somebody to, let's take the number 7, for example. Can you show me the original number 7? Where is it? Or any number come to that. They're just concepts. So the same with these trees. They may well have been a physical playout of the story. But this is a spiritual history that is being played out. This is an eternal play that keeps going round and round and round from Revelations to Genesis and then back to Revelations. Each time you get to Revelations, it sets the scene for the next Genesis. It's an endless loop. This is the real metaverse. Now, you'll probably find that when you take that headset off, that you've had a fantastic time and you'll want to go round again. You can have unlimited rides in this realm. It's not all bad. It's just a perception of bad. It's the ultimate computer game. It feels so real because it's meant to. It's by design. It's by the design that I, as a collective embodiment, designed and created. Now, you have that power to create inside yourself when you use your imagination. But now where is that third tree if you were to give it a physical form? I can tell you exactly where it is. It's your nervous system. It's connected to your astral body. See Rudolf Steiner lectures for more information on that. Hey, I'm not doing it all for you. This is Vantage University, so you're going to get a bit of homework. Now, it's up to you whether you do it. There's no right or wrong to whether you do it. It's just things that may benefit you to at least get the concept of the thing. It's a 3-step process. One is to ask yourself, not anybody else external of you, to ask yourself, how would it be if? Or what would it be like if? Now, take a hold of the concept of something. Imagine what it would be like. Now take it a step further. This is where you become an actor on the world stage. You live it, you breathe it, you become it. It's not fake it until you make it. It's the law of assumption. It's one of these eternal laws. You assume you already have it. There then works this magical interaction. Now, the best way I can put this is an experience 2 days ago. 1 minute we're having rain here, and then the next minute we're having sunshine. Now, it is what it is. I can't change the weather. Learn to accept what you can change and what you cannot. But just observe, and it is what it is. People want justice, but actually people want just is. That's what they really want, just a sense of contentedness and a sense of being. Not being on a high and happy all the time, because that creates an imbalance. And it would be like trying to maintain a level of drunkenness, which would be difficult to try and maintain. And it either goes too far, or you end up with a massive hangover if you're using the alcohol analogy. I don't personally drink. Anyway, getting back on point again. So it is all about being in the balance, just being. Now, it rains, but then the magic happens because that passes, the sun comes back out. Now everything is vibrant. It's just been watered. All of nature has been watered. And now you've got that beautiful smell. Now that's a magical moment because it's all in the present, all in the moment. I'm just giving you a visual, an eyewitness thing of something I experienced only 2 days ago. If you can just get yourself into that state, the United States of love, which is on the description of this channel, that's the place to aim for. Now, it's no accident it's called the US, because it is us. What happens in the United States does affect the entire world because it is us, it's US. In Europe, we have something rather unpleasant. It's EU, it's called EU. But it is what it is. That's going to sound very contradictory. Now I'm catching myself here because I've just made a statement of just observe. But now I put a judgment on it. You see how easy it is to fall for that? I'm not infallible. Because we've all fallen. We're all falling for scripts. That's the fall of man. It's continuously going on. It's not something that happens once. It's something that rolls out every day. In the same way Neville Goddard says the play is played out every day. You don't see most of the scenes because you don't see all of the people all of the time. You see some of the people some of the time. And you see some of the things some of the time. And there's an awful lot of things that are put about and put out on as stories that aren't even true. And things that can't be verified. Unless you eyewitness something, or you really can totally trust another person enough that you can say, is this true? I've heard this is happening there. Can you confirm or deny? It's like this earthquake that's supposed to, I understand, is in Morocco. Well, never felt a thing here. Not that far away, but I knew nothing about it because I don't watch any news. This reality is bounded by the 4 hills. It's a sort of isolation, but it's not a hermited isolation, because that to me would be discourteous of me to. I would not be playing the role of a gentleman, because the whole idea is to find the door and a gentleman will hold the door open. To quote myself, I've said there is a human race. It's not a race competing against each other. It's a race to find an expedient way to get out of this perceived trap. Now that's a very interesting thing which I will leave to another video, because we need to shine a light on the hidden hand. We also need to shine a light on its modus operandi that puts into action these variable scripts that are manipulating and playing humanity in this world play. But when does the age of Aquarius start? When you find it in yourself to take back your sovereignty, to take back your power, to come to that acknowledgement and realization within oneself that you are a sovereign being, you are princes, but you will die as men, like I think it's Psalm 82 in the Old Testament. You're going through an experience now. You're princes, so you're not yet kings. You've not been Christed. You've not been crowned, but you have the ability to head in that direction. All men were created equal. Now that is your God-given gifts. You all have this light, this seed. Whether that seed has fallen on fertile soil, now that fertile soil would be dependent on what feeling is inside you. Now, your feeling is the nerve endings that are all over your body, right down to the tips of your fingers, right down to the tips of your toes. There is your true sight in the physical expression. It's all in the feeling. That's how you know if you listen to the feeling, if you listen to your gut feeling, that's your solar plexus, which is the place of the sun. Your internal sun, oh black hole sun, won't you come? There's your Kundalini rising being explained or expressed in the song. And it has to go up to a pine tree, to pineal, of course, there's another tree. But it then needs to settle, it needs to... See, I would say don't be on the cardinal cross, be on the fixed cross, because if you're on the cardinal cross, where else can you go but fall? If you're on the fixed cross, you're right in the middle, you're in balance. And I would rather be with the option of either being able to rise or to fall, rather than thinking, oh dear, all I can do is fall. But of course, if you're also on a mutable cross, well, that's leading to change. Now, whether that change is good or bad will depend on how you feel and your perception on things. I'm going to use another analogy just to close this now, because we're up to 45 minutes, 46 now. Think of it like art, still life. Our Father who art in heaven, its creation, its imagination. So you've got this still life with a fruit bowl. Now you've got an artist who's doing a painting from each of those 4 cardinal points. They're each going to have a different perception of exactly the same thing. And if you start taking it seriously and start arguing over whether there's more bananas in this fruit bowl, or no, there's only a pineapple because that's the only thing you can see from that perspective, whereas the one opposite might be saying, actually, there's grapes and cherries behind the pineapple. It gets a little bit ridiculous, and it's a lot of infighting, and it becomes divide and conquer, when really it's in divide you all. But when you pull yourself back together in that divine union, it's not conquer as such, it's concur. You're in agreement within oneself. That is the age of Aquarius, when we acquire us, when we take back our power, when we acknowledge who we truly are. It's expressed as a man with a jug of water. It's something I showed on, I alluded to on a short. I don't know how many people got the joke of that. Aquarius is an air sign, it's not a water sign. It's not about water, it's about the outpouring. It's outpouring from the heart. If you look where the jug is depicted, it's right by the heart. Now, you're not going to leave yourself unprotected, because you'll have this spiritual armor. It's called l'amour in French, it's called love. It's the strongest force there is, and that is the only thing you need to require is generate that, and just observe. That will give you your very own individual firmament, so nothing is going to harm you. You don't need to get anywhere, you didn't need to go anywhere, you just need to be. And just stay neutral to everything, and don't give power to anything, don't give your power away. But equally, be benevolent, be no violence. Take the I out of violence and you've got benevolent. It's that simple. You can do things in a benevolent way, you don't have to do things in a violent way. You don't need to push back against the system, you just have to use your imagination and your ingenuity and your intuition. There's your 3 eyes. So we'll leave that there, and I will talk more about the mechanism and things in the next video. If you've come across from Lavette'S channel, I hope this all makes sense to you. And if I may just reiterate one more time, any help that you can give so I can buy more seeds, teach a man to fish is the saying. Well, likewise with seeds, I want to grow my way out of this temporary perceived predicament. And it can be done. But there's obviously things, basics like toilet roll and herbs and spices and things, that it takes time to sort of replace, cut out, or come up with ingenious ways of around things and finding new ways of doing things. But I've taken this step. I'm in a very good position where there's nothing the system can really do to me that they can try and put leverage on me. I'm all in on this one. I'm prepared to wager my soul on this. And this is how committed I am to this. And if you don't believe me, well, put me to the test. That's all I say, is I will see this through to the end, because I don't wish to be a sinner. That is missing the mark. You are the archer, you are the arrow. You aim for the bullseye. Now, if you put enough feeling into it, and you see it through to the end, you're going to hit that mark, you're going to hit that bullseye. If you do things half-hearted, well, it comes down to taking responsibility for yourself and taking responsibility for your actions. But I'm finding this rather fun, this challenge, and as much as anything else, all I'm doing is proving to myself that this can be done, and what we've been told is totally untrue, and it suits a certain agenda, but it's all part of this game. But check your sources, always go back to source with everything. That actually reminds me, because I've heard it twice on the radio, The Sorcerer's Apprentice, so make that the topic of the next video on this channel. It's also leading to exposing the mechanism that's operating in the external world that is catching many people out. But you have the power within you to change it, each and every one of you. You just need to find it inside yourselves. I will do my best to try and guide you, and I'm not the only one, so all the channels that I've mentioned so far, do have a look at those as well. I shall try and remember to put links to each of the channels in the description. They're all things I feel that will benefit you and help you. That's why I'm sharing them. That's the only reason I'm sharing them. So thank you very much for listening, and I hope to hear from you, and let me know in the comments what you think. Anything else you'd like me to talk about? I can't say I know the answers to anything, but it'll just come. It just comes across from the subconscious as and when it's needed. You don't have to carry all the clutter in your head. Keep the runway clear for the white dove to land, or the plane to land, is another way of expressing it. Next year should be fun. I'm estimating about next April is going to be something rather spectacular, but in the run-up to that, it is all spectacular anyway. Love to you all.